Riddle me this, riddle me that. Are you ready for a totally unbiased review? Hey Extreme Team, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. The riddle is, why is this going to be so hard to be an unbiased review? This Riddler statue may look familiar to you. You may be thinking, hey Mr. X, I've seen that Riddler statue on your table before. No, you haven't, my virtual friend. That was the prototype. I was lucky enough to do a preview for you guys on the prototype. This is actually a production piece. So this is the finalized product, and we're going to do an in-depth review today and also see how close he came to the prototype. We're going to review them like we always do, using the classic categories, the classic extreme scale. But before we jump into that, let's talk about Riddler a little bit. So Riddler is a DC villain who normally goes up against Batman. He was featured in the live-action Batman movie, played by none other than Ace Ventura. Now, what's crazy to me is Batman is one of the most popular statues out there. And to my knowledge, there aren't any Riddler statues out there. So this is officially the first ever mass-produced, and when I say mass, I mean they made 40 of these, Riddler statues in the 1/4 scale, meaning that the real Riddler would be 4 times bigger than this guy. I do know of one other custom one in the works, but for some reason, Riddler isn't done very often, which is so strange because he is a classic Batman villain. Now, Edward Nygma, one of the really cool things about him is he is a genius. He is a diabolical, sadistic genius that doesn't know right from wrong, and he likes to play games, hence the name, the Riddler. And I think this statue captured a lot of those things, so we're going to jump into that. But before we do, give back to you guys, we're doing a statue giveaway. We're going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these two PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. So the first riddle of today, what category are we going to start with? Wrong! We're going to go out of order just to mess with you. We're actually going to start with design today. So when we look at design, it's did everything fit well together? How did it assemble? So very first thing, let's look at the unboxing and assembly of this piece. It was one small box, but the packing job was amazing. You could throw it down 10 stories of floor, somebody said. Your standard custom black foam on the inside with 2 layers. One with his body, some of his arms, the other with the base, his portraits, and a few more pieces. Now he does have a number of cool switch out options as well. He has 2 left arm options, 2 right arm options, and 2 portrait options. So first right here we see his portrait with his hat on. This is a classic part of Riddler. I'm glad they added this, but if you don't like the hat on, they have an unhatted, is that a word, version of Riddler himself right here. And what's really cool about this, because his hat's not on, you can use the left arm switch out where he's holding his hat. Now, you don't necessarily have to use this with the unhatted version. You definitely obviously wouldn't want to use this with the hatted version unless you're really trying to confuse people. But you can switch out the left arm for a solved Rubik's Cube. Now, his right arm, both options, he's holding the classic Riddler staff with a question mark on top. Both times he's kind of leaning against his knee. That's the position he's in. One of the times it's straight vertical, up and down. And the other time, a little bit diagonal here. Now, as an added feature on the Batcave, which we'll talk about during concept, there is this light up feature. This is pretty cool. It's highlighting Riddler. Maybe he's in the center of the Batcave. It is AC. You plug it into the wall, which is nice. I hate battery light up features. I'm not a huge fan of this light up feature, but it is a cool Easter egg they added. Also, let's get dimensions on him really quick. He doesn't take up a lot of space, which is fantastic for a 1/4 scale. So the diameter with the lights is about 14 inches, without maybe 13 and a quarter. The height on Riddler is right under 20 inches. So very accurate on the scale. I like that. It's going to be great how well he pairs with my other Batman villains. I'll put up pictures on the Extreme Channel Facebook page. If you haven't seen that, check out the link in the description below and make sure you like and follow that page. Everything fit together really well. Magnets were fantastic. If I had to do any criticisms, I would say right here where the lights plug in, there's a little bit of a seam line. Not a big deal, but you can see it. And then a little bit of a seam line where the jacket meets the arm. And with this is kind of needed for the switch outs, and most jackets have kind of a big seam there anyway. Now, one difference between the prototype, I didn't go back and watch that video because I wanted fresh thoughts, but I remember I had to insert all these items into the bottom. And as you saw on the assembly, only a few of them had to be inserted now. So I kind of like that. It just makes it easier. There's nothing lost, nothing able to fall out. So really, I'm not seeing a lot they could have improved. Maybe a little bit on the seam line. So I think the design's a 4 out of 5 on this piece. Really, really well done. All the important things were exactly as they should be, especially for a lot of pieces fitting together. So now we're going to cover concept, right? Wrong. We're going to talk about value on this piece, going totally out of order here. So value, this was $800 for a custom 1/4 scale piece. They only made 40 of these. Riddler, only Riddler statue in the world, retailed for $800. Shipping honestly wasn't that bad. Sea shipping I think was like $130, $150, which during COVID times is a steal. So you're a little less than $1,000 all in for a 1/4 scale piece. Most licensed pieces are somewhere between $600 and $1,300 depending on how dynamic there is. There's a lot of pieces to this. You get a lot of switch outs. There's only 40 of these, plus they made a few APs. So I think the value is very good on this piece because he's such a rare character. I would rank the value as a 4 as well. And I think even if the value was higher, like I could double my money, I wouldn't give him up. And that's another hint to the riddle I posed to you at the beginning of the video. So we're going to go into paint and sculpt next. Now with paint and sculpt, I see some really, really good things that are even better than the prototype. And I see a few things that are a little bit of a miss. This base here, now it looks the same, except they did add some green tint to the top of it. But starting at the outside, it looks very much the same. Looks great. Very high-tech, Batcave-like. Really lets you think that, hey, this is inside the Batcave. I like that. There's no rocks or anything, but conceptually the Batcave always looks a little bit different. Let's look at the top of it. Here you kind of see that yellow-green on the grates there, and I don't remember that on the prototype. It might have been there. I like that it adds a little bit of variance to that gray steel color that you see everywhere else. Quick shot of the dynamite here. Looks fantastic. The dynamite looks a little more cartoonish almost, and there is a little bit of paint areas you see where it's not as clean as it should be, which when we get to Riddler, there's some clean paint stuff that's just amazing. The C4, these look good as well. They look very similar to the dynamite. A few paint opportunities, nothing major. Looking at it with the microscope, still pretty cool. The dynamite explosive box looks fantastic. I love how old and worn this is. It's like he uses it over and over. Tons of black shadowing. It looks cracked and old. Some gold rivets on the top of it. Very, very well done. The blueprints look awesome. If you guys recall, I had a decal that wouldn't stick to it. This is permanently attached to it. It even says the home of Bruce Wayne on top, so you know that he's in the Batcave. He's used his prowess to get there, which we'll talk more about in concept. But where the base really steals the show, believe it or not, and I remember this in the prototype, is this wood box. This looks fabulous. It looks like a real wood box. And I don't know if it's the sculpt or the paint or a combination of both, but it looks great. It looks old, some etchings in it, the different shadowing between black and brown. And then the spray painted Riddler sign on the front of it is a fantastic ad. Very, very cool. And then right at the top of it, you see a little timer on some of the dynamite that's coming out of it. So we'll take a look at Riddler's boots, and I think I remember this from the review as well. They look like the black Skechers that I still own to this day. Very shiny, very nice. I'm pretty sure they are black Skechers, which, you know, Riddler's got to shop somewhere for his shoes, but they look good. His suit is what looks a little bit different. There's a ton more texture in this than there was in the prototype, and I see that in the jacket as well, and I think they actually reprinted it. Looks great. There's all these folds and the seam line running up the sides in a honeycomb pattern. And then the black shadowing looks perfect in it. It really reflects, it just reflects great. You can't really see a lot of Riddler's anatomy, but he's not really a muscular guy that you're looking for those things. But the folds are perfect, flows really well. The flow of the clothes along with his body is done great. And let's look at his jacket. So you see a little bit of a different pattern on it, which I like that it differentiates, because typically like a suit coat isn't going to be the same as your slacks. But what's neat about this is the question marks. And I remember the painter of this, I know him personally because he does a lot of my stuff. He said when he painted the prototype, it was the biggest pain in the ass for all these question marks. So someone at the factory had to do all these question marks for the 40 plus pieces. They look great. It is extremely and surprisingly very clean. This is what I was worried about most. They did a fantastic job on that. Take a look at his staff really quick. This looks good. There's a little bit of paint opportunity where the question mark starts. A little bit of bunched up paint, but otherwise fantastic. The Rubik's Cube, I think that's where some opportunity lies. The paint is a little splotchy on there, the different colors. Doesn't look very clean, but I can get over that. I don't even know if I'm going to display it with the Rubik's Cube. We're going to talk more about that in the concept. His gloves look great. They look like real gloves. They don't look like they're sculpted. They're stretched. This great purple color you classically see with the Riddler. It's great highlights. And the same can be said about his shirt and his tie. Very, very cool. Let's look at his portrait without the hat. More of a conceptual thing, but this is such an awesome smile, and I think the other one's even a little bit more awesome. He has green eyes in this one, different color on the other one. The paint's done very well. I like the skin tone. He's a little bit more pale on this, which you kind of think of Riddler as an indoor guy, but lips look fantastic. The mask, very clean paint around that. I like the fact that sculpted into him are some scars. Very cool. His hair looks all right. They could have done a little bit better sculpt on the hair, a little bit more differentiation in the strands, maybe a little bit more highlights as well. Then the portrait with the hat. First, looking at the hat, there's this great texture on the hat. Looks really, really cool. We didn't really take a close look at the hat he's holding in his hand, but that one, here's a quick shot actually. He's actually folding it. You can see it being pressed in, which is great. And then here's his portrait, very similar, except his eyes are whited out, even more evil and sinister. And then he has that grin with his teeth showing. Paint job on his teeth. I like the fact they added a little bit of a glistening effect that bounces off his lips. It could have been a little more differentiated in his teeth, but not really a big deal. So I'm really torn on the paint. With the question marks alone, I think they should get a huge score for that. But like I said, down here, a little bit of non-clean lines here. The box is fantastic. The base is okay. The portrait looks great. I think I got to give the paint, to try and be biased, a 3. I'll give the paint a 3 out of 5, even though doing all those question marks had to take forever. However, I will give the sculpt. When you look at Riddler, the sculpt is fantastic. Maybe a little bit more detail in his face and his hair, but the rest of it is a knockout of the park. So I think the sculpt's a 4 out of 5. Very, very well done. So Mr. X, are we going into concept now? No. We're going to do, does this statue have the X factor? So the X factor is not a cumulative score, but it's the final score. It's when I walk past this, is it wow? Is it amazing? Now, because he is such a rare character, I think if you're in the statue collecting community, you might stop. Be like, wow, that's a Riddler statue. However, I don't want to include that too much into the score, but I really dig this statue for a lot of the reasons we're about to talk about in concept. And I think overall, I'm giving this statue a 4 out of 5. I think the rarity ties into it, the great concept we're about to talk about, very good paint, very good sculpt. And that's finally when we can get to the concept, which to me is the best part of this piece. So we talked about Riddler. He's diabolical. He's a genius. He's always after Batman. Does this include that? Let's take a look. So he's in the Batcave, obviously, like we talked about right here. You can tell by the blueprints it says, Wayne Mansion. He got into the house, found out the Batcave underneath it. The highlights are highlighted on him. Maybe he's waiting for Batman to come home. And he has enough explosives to level Wayne Manor plus some. I like that. There's 2 cases of C4. There is a huge thing of dynamite. Dynamite sticks all over, the old-fashioned, Roadrunner cartoon dynamite. And the spray-painted question mark on the box, another great, hey, I'm going to blow you up, Batman, and you know it's going to be me. And I think what I love about this is his pose. You guys know pose is one of the most important things to me in a statue, and he is smug as hell. No matter which portrait you have, no matter what hand switch outs you have on, he's holding his classic cane that screams Riddler all the way. He has the absolute right suit on it. The green isn't overpowering. The cool thing about the Rubik's Cube is, hey, he did solve it. He is a genius, so it shows that part of him. And then the sneer on either face, I think, just really tops it off. If I wanted a Riddler statue, which obviously I did, this is exactly what I want. I like how it's, kind of away from a comic version, but this still could fit in the comic genre, almost a real life version. I think this guy looks like a better Riddler than Jim Carrey did. So I think the concept's a 5 out of 5 or an X on this for sure. So cool to see a character that is decently popular but doesn't get a lot of love start getting some attention and love. So happy to have this piece. This piece alone might be why I keep my 1/4 DC collection, and I'm not talking about the XM Samurai line. Let me know if you've ever had a line or a theme of statues and you kept it simply because of one piece. Let me know that in the comments, and the reason for that is that'll help you with the statue giveaway. In one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these two pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hopefully I wasn't too biased, but check out this playlist with some of these other custom statues. Hit that Mr. X logo because we got tons of statues incoming for awesome reviews like this. Until tomorrow, take care.